June 2023, the Volkswagen CEO sort of dropped a bombshell with an announcement that shocked investors, environmentalists, and even top expert auto sector insiders to the core. It simply announced that it is undertaking some serious steps to scale back electric car production at one of its biggest factories by pausing work on electric models for 6 weeks at its plant in Emden, northwest Germany, and will also lay off 300 of the 1,500 workers involved in making them. And if that was not enough, it jolted the masses when it added that the production of the ID.7 saloon car will be pushed from July to December 2023, while the ID.3 is under serious revisions. Luckily, they did not mention any changes to plans to launch the ID.2 in 2024, which would have been cataclysmic and would have the company's stock value overnight. We made a video about the ID.2 BEV and how the whole of Europe is waiting for it to hit the road, so make sure to watch that video to understand how important that car is for the European market, among others. Nevertheless, the company's stock price did take a nosedive, but quickly recovered a week later after everyone got a grip on what the company's CEO Oliver Blume was talking about. So, is VW planning to quit the whole EV thing? Why are they scaling back? And is the company in trouble? Stay tuned for the real detailed answer. Let's start by deciphering VW, which would enable us to justify the company's strategy. VW is officially called the Volkswagen Group. It owns Audi, Bentley, Cupra, Jetta, Lamborghini, Porsche, Seat, Skoda, and the Volkswagen brands. It had a whopping 342 subsidiary companies in 2008. Today it owns more, including VW Bank, which operates only in Europe, but also under the name VW Financial on a global level. It also makes motorcycles under the Ducati name, and heavy commercial vehicles via the marques of its subsidiary Traton. And of course, it makes its own engines that even companies such as BMW, Ford, and Mercedes used and still utilize some of their models. Of course, these companies give these engines different names, and would not tell you that your Ford or Beamer might be powered by a TSI and TDI VW engine. Yep, take that for a sleeping pill. From 2016 to 2019, VW retained the position of the world's largest automaker by sales. In 2020, it ranked 7th in the 2020 Fortune Global 500 list of the world's largest companies. Today, it is the second largest car maker in the world by sales after Toyota, and the third after BYD and Tesla in electric car sales. You are probably shocked now. Tesla is not the world's largest EV seller, but it is rather the Chinese giant BYD, and VW is the third, selling about half of what Tesla sells in EVs every year. Sorry about bursting your bubble. The company also has operations in more than 150 countries with more than 100 production facilities across 29 countries. Its projected revenues for 2023 are around $321 billion, about 3.1 times the projected number for Tesla. But still, on paper, Tesla is worth more than Toyota and VW combined because, let's face it, North American and increasingly European investors are obsessed with Tesla due to the insane hype and intensive media coverage, not to mention Elon Musk's tweets and eccentric public behavior. There are actually expectations that VW will beat Toyota and retake the title of the world's biggest automaker by sales in 2024, because Toyota is quite late to the EV party and has barely begun making any BEVs. However, in 2023, BYD will retain the title of the world's largest EV seller. Tesla is expected to maintain the number 2 spot, while VW is still on target to retain the number 3 position. These three giants are growing quite fast in the EV sector with soaring sales. However, unlike Tesla and BYD, VW did not get engaged in the recent EV price wars declared by Musk against BYD, BMW, and VW. This price war hurt Tesla quite a bit in terms of net profits and did affect the company's plans. Nevertheless, Tesla stock is still traded like Bitcoin when it was the thing, which is quite insane since even Musk admitted on numerous occasions that Tesla stock is dangerously overvalued. He made these remarks when the stock hovered over $700, but since then the value has declined to around $250 on average, which is closer to its real value of about $150 max, because Tesla makes nearly 90% of its money from car sales, with the rest from batteries, clean energy technologies, and sells only about 18% as many cars as VW, which sells millions of ICE vehicles every year. Tesla is also bound by boundaries. 90% of the world's population does not have access to Tesla cars and recharging stations, while VW is a global brand that you can find anywhere and everywhere, and its hybrids and hydrogen fuel cell EVs are a serious threat, not just to Tesla but to Toyota too, which by the way is very weak in the BEV sector. We are not against Tesla. It is a great company that makes powerful cars and was probably the most powerful force that drove the giants to get more serious about making EVs. The only car maker in the world that Tesla truly fears is Volkswagen, not BYD, because VW is all over the place with its BEVs and FCEVs, while Tesla sales are mostly in the USA, and it is not gaining grounds in Europe, nor it is generating the desirable level of income one would expect due to the price wars. 2024 is definitely the year of EV wars in Europe, as VW will roll out the ID.7 and more importantly the ID.2, which needless to say, might put an end to Tesla's wet dreams in Europe. That's been said, you just never know what Musk is up to. He is already planning to challenge VW's ID.2, which will go for merely $22,000 to $25,000, with 2 gigafactories, one in Mexico and another in India, with both said to be focused on producing the much-anticipated third-generation Tesla, which has yet to be named and is expected to be sold for as little as $25,000. But guess what? VW is already planning to strike back with a mystery EV for as little as $18,000. Yep, it looks like we all will be able to afford a decent BEV with a 400-kilometer range and semi-decent infotainment system by late 2025. So go ahead, Tesla and VW, and fight. Hold on, we forgot about BYD, so we are looking at BEVs for as little as $13,000. Okay, we are guessing you see where we're going, right? VW is not quitting the EV industry. However, these ensuing and upcoming battles do not justify VW's recent announcements of EV scaleback and potential cancellation of some models. Let's take a look at VW's BEV numbers and see if there is something there to explain the whole fiasco. In 2022, VW sold 572,100 BEVs, and it had an ambitious goal of selling 1 million BEVs in 2023. However, the total number of cars sold in 2022 was 8,262,800 units, which is 6% less than 2021. Nevertheless, the fact remains that the BEV segment did better in 2022 than in 2021, which is a puzzle to us. If you are selling more and more BEVs, why would you announce scalebacks? In fact, VW is well on its way to selling over 700,000 BEVs in 2023. This begs the question, did VW view the rise in BEV sales as something happening at the expense of its ICE car sales? Well, we looked into it and discovered that would have been true in 2023, but is false in 2023 because the company is also well on its way to selling 9 to 9.5 million cars in total in 2023, which means the rise in BEV sales is also being accompanied by a rise in ICE car sales. This led us to look at this equation from a different angle. As we said earlier, VW aimed for sales in the range of 1 million BEVs in 2023, and since the figure will be around 700,000, that constitutes a shortfall of 30%. If we couple this with the reality that VW still plans to roll out the ID.7 and ID.2 in the next few months, and the fact that demand for VW ICE units is rising, it does make sense for the company to focus on making the best of its top-performing BEVs by slowing other weak performers and even canceling some altogether. This sounds like a mild restructuring in the BEV department. Additionally, VW does not have to impress anyone since its BEVs are great and doing well, and it is ahead of its nemesis Tesla in terms of prices because of the 2024 ID.2. Meanwhile, Tesla is placing big bets on the all-new but about 4 years overdue Cybertruck, which is likely to do well but will struggle against the all-new Toyota Tacoma, among others. We made videos about the new Tacoma BEV truck and Tesla's Cybertruck, so make sure to check them out. Anyway, this means VW is not feeling all that threatened by Tesla as some may think. However, VW will have a very tough ride competing with BYD in China, which is the world's biggest market for BEVs. Hence, we can only assume that VW does have a plan for something big in China. However, we do not know nor have seen anything to hint at such mobilization in 2024. VW is also getting a lot of attention in North America, where it has retained the 4th top position, which, needless to say, is quite promising. I know that we have made a lot of comparisons between VW and Tesla so far, which honestly is not fair, nor does either of them justice. Tesla makes only all-electric BEVs, and 50% of its sales are in the USA and another 22% in China. Meanwhile, VW is a global monster that makes colossal numbers of ICEs, BEVs, and FCEVs, and dominates several markets, including the immense European market. This explains why VW is heading for $321 billion in revenues in 2023, while Tesla has a target of $100 billion. 15% of Tesla's income comes from sources related to renewable and clean energy, such as solar panels. Meanwhile, VW does not. In the end, we can only compare the two companies based on their share of the BEV market based on sales, which makes Tesla a definite winner. This leads us to an important question. Is VW up to something to grab the number 2 spot from Tesla in BEV sales? The answer is yes, it can, but at what cost? And what about the other competitors such as GM, which sold more than 500,000 BEVs in 2022? Others such as Stellantis also sold about the same as GM in 2022. So it is unlikely that VW will divert its assets toward a heated competition or open price war with Tesla. Why? The answer is simple. Even though the demand for fully electric BEVs is skyrocketing, the demand for ICE vehicles is also on fire, and according to Toyota, the future is definitely FCEV and hydrogen ICE vehicles. In a nutshell, VW cannot sacrifice one segment at the expense of the other, and thus it has to keep a delicate balance in order to remain competitive in all segments while retaining number 2 top global position. This leads us to an important question. How did VW come to such a conclusion? The answer is capacity. VW did not lose money or its position or sell fewer cars. It simply scaled back to cut costs because it did not meet its rather overambitious targets in the BEV sector in 2023. Every year, most major car makers end up with tens of thousands of undelivered vehicles. Hence, VW seems to be aiming to reduce cost by eliminating this excess production. In fact, everyone knows that VW will keep making EVs and sales will continue to rise. That's why VW made it clear a few weeks back that production at the Emden plant will increase again with the market launch of the ID.7 at the end of the year. There is also the issue of the EU economic situation, which has been deteriorating due to the Ukraine war and the end of the EU-Russia gas and oil love affair. This is a unique situation only to Europe because the US is doing great and managed to avoid a recession and is technically unaffected by the Ukraine war. VW seems to have punched into its formulas a potential longer than projected stall in the EU's economic growth rate. This hidden recession in the EU could, or rather does, mean weaker demand. Additionally, winter is approaching, which means EU citizens will be forced to foot colossal gas and/or electricity bills just to keep the heat on, which is another side effect of the Ukraine war and the lack of cheap Russian gas. Hence, recharging BEVs can become very expensive, while ICEs and hybrids are not just cheaper than BEVs, but also cheaper to refuel. Most Europeans would also not mind delaying buying a BEV or keeping their existing one parked and using public transit instead during winter in order to contribute to less stress on the power grid. This is expected to further complicate the EU market scene for VW, and thus reducing capacity is a wise temporary move. Mind you that VW did not shut down factories and sent everyone home with a pink slip. The whole story was blown out of proportion because all VW did was reduce the number of temporary staff and cancel some shifts at only one major facility. According to Morgan Stanley, a slowdown in European demand for EVs after cuts to subsidies is bad news for VW and other European car makers. Indeed, VW did mention the issue of lower subsidies for buyers of cars across Europe and higher inflation for a drop in consumer interest in BEVs. Many EU states have already or planned to put an end to subsidies that include cheap public charging of BEVs for users who don't have access to discounted overnight electricity from a home charger. In a nutshell, charging a BEV in Europe during winter is very expensive, and the cost is becoming higher year-round as the EU ends or changes many EV-related subsidies for users, including tax breaks. In conclusion, VW is not quitting BEVs, hybrids, or FCEVs, but rather maneuvering around a changing, very complex global economic situation and the competition. What do you think of VW's mobilization? Is it good, bad, or unnecessary? Let us know in the comments section. And please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you.